These are the 4 steps that I use to quit porn for good in a short amount of time, and I'm giving them to you right here in this video. Now, if you want to quit porn and masturbation for good using these steps, then I have a special offer just for you at the end of this video. Let's go. Howdy folks, Ben Uyama here, helping you quit porn and masturbation for good. Step 1 is to understand the impact that porn has had on your life. You cannot beat porn and masturbation unless you first understand the negative impacts on your life. Currently, right now, not in the future, not when you're married, not when you move to that new house, not when the new year comes around. Right now, if you don't understand how porn is impacting you, then you will never change. Why? Because, simply put, currently the benefits of keeping your porn and masturbation habit with you outweigh the apparent negative impacts in your life. In other words, you believe, subconsciously or consciously, or your brain believes that porn is adding some benefit to your life, and it's not really, the negative impacts are not really big enough to justify getting rid of it, so you try to keep it with you as long as possible. You cannot beat porn until you come to a place of just feeling the impact of your decisions have been on your life. This is why some people can beat porn and some people cannot. It's because if you're always justifying, and you know people like this, justifying their habit and saying, oh, there's nothing wrong with it, it's healthy, everyone's doing it, you're never gonna beat it because you don't understand any of the apparent negative impacts on your life, and you only see possible temporary benefits of keeping it with you. So let's get into the impact of porn a little bit. For me personally, because we're talking about my experience here, I brought my porn and masturbation habit far too long into my marriage after we were married. I had been clean for a number of years, 3 years actually before marriage, and I unintentionally brought the habit with me because, we were having a lot of difficulties in our relationship, a lot of stress built up in our lives at the time, and I used porn as the primary escape mechanism to escape those difficult, stressful situations and the arguing and the fighting and the tension that my wife and I had at the time. So for a number of years, I was secretly having this porn and masturbation habit, and for years I was justifying my porn habit and saying, oh, it's just a little bit. My wife won't even know. She won't even notice. Until I really got honest with myself and asked myself, is porn really beneficial to me, or is it actually taking away more than I'd like? And through a process of just peeling back the layers and realizing why do I use porn? What is it taking away from me? And do I really want to bring this with me for the rest of my life, into my marriage, even after I have kids, into my career? And the answer to me was no. So I did a process of just figuring out, what is the impact of porn on my life? What is it really taking away from me? And my conclusion was really clear and just in my face. It was the whole time I had been secretly keeping this with me. At the same time, I had been unable to give my full attention and energy to my wife. Sexually speaking, I was sexually satisfying myself and going to porn and going to masturbation as a way to alleviate stress and experience sexual pleasure. At the end of the day, I had nothing left to give my wife. And porn was really just zapping my energy and zapping my focus until I realized my wife is really unhappy and our relationship is really unhappy, and my wife is sexually unfulfilled because I've been fulfilling my own desires and I have been wasting my energy on myself and not giving it to the person that really needs and deserves it the most. So when I realized this fundamental reality in my relationship is that I cannot love my wife fully if I have porn in my life. I cannot, even if it's just occasional, even if it's just once in a while, as long as I'm secretly having this thing in my life and fulfilling my own sexual desires and not giving any of my energy to her or my focus to her, I cannot love her. I cannot love her. I cannot love my kids. I can't look at my kids in the eyes, can't look at my parents in the eyes or my wife in the eyes because I have this deep, dark secret. And when I realized that, light bulb went out, and I realized that this is taking away way more than I'd like, and actually there are actually no benefits of keeping this with me. And when you realize that, when you actually come to the place where you do some honest self-reflection and put away the justifications for just a second, go out in nature, bring your journal, write it down. What has porn taken away from my life? What are the negative impacts that porn has brought to my life? The conclusion that a lot of the men that I work with, they come to this similar conclusion that porn is actually taking away a lot of my focus, my confidence, my time, my energy, my relationships, my spirituality, all of these things. And in fact, when you list the pros of having porn and masturbation, the benefits, it's nothing actually. Maybe stress relief, but is it really stress relief if every time you do it, you require more porn in order to relieve those stress? Is that really stress relief? You can say the same thing about smoking, guys. Smoking is stress relief. It's healthy. We've already debunked that. And the science is becoming really clear that porn and masturbation are actually destructive for you, and you can develop a very severe compulsive addiction to those things. So the reality is that porn never, ever adds to your life. It only subtracts from your life. And when you really realize that for yourself, and you actually go deep and realize what you've done to your life already right now, then it'll just about bring you to your knees and feel like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I haven't seen this before. I can't believe I've been spending this so much time and energy. And not only the act of masturbating and watching porn, but the amount of time of fantasizing and thinking about sex and then acting on it, and then the guilt and shame that I feel after that, and then the spiraling out of control because I'm trying to escape that shame and guilt with more porn and masturbation. Guys, did you know collectively we spend more than 5 billion hours watching porn on one website? 5 billion hours. Think about that for a second. That might not seem a lot, but put this into perspective. How many years is 5 billion hours? Do the math, my math whiz guys. 5 billion hours is almost 600,000 years. 600,000 years we spend watching porn every single year on one website. We're not designed to do that, guys. Porn is taking away from you, from our society, from our families, from our world, more than it's actually adding any benefit to us, and it's time to get rid of it. And when you realize the impact of porn in your life, it will instantly change you to become the person, the man that you want to be, and that's where the next steps come in. So after I really got, oh my gosh, like I've been doing this to my life, to my family, to my wife, to my marriage, this is terrible, I gotta get rid of this. I did a 28-day reboot and rewire. The reason that 28 days is a really solid number to shoot for initially, of course you wanna go longer than 28 days, but that's because it takes 28 days for your brain to rewire, to reboot, to get off this thing, to detox off the porn, because the studies have shown that the dopamine effects and the delta phosphate, the desire, in other words, to go back to porn, increase in strength for about 1 week, and then it kind of level off after 28 days. And that's when the desire starts to fade and your brain starts to rewire all of that. Okay, at least 28 days, depending on how addicted you are. So that's what I did. 28 days, go cold turkey. But when you realize that you're using porn as a way to kind of alleviate a rash, like an analogy, a rash on your arm. And the rash, every time you put the cream on, the rash disappears, and then the next day it's bigger and bigger. So every time you have that rash, you just need the cream in order to get rid of it. So how do you get rid of the rash if you need this cream? Well, you just let it heal naturally. You just stop using the cream and just let your body do its thing, and you address the root cause of why the rash is there in the first place. In other words, you address the root cause of why you use porn. And this is really what it takes. And I'm gonna talk about that in just a second. So after step 2, you've done 28-day reboot, then you have a little bit more clarity. You have a little bit more focus, more energy, more clarity about what it's gonna take to beat porn. And after 28 days, you probably, like I said, you've increased in desire and urge to watch porn, masturbate, and that's why a lot of people fail right after 1 week or 2 weeks, is because they just can't get past that hump, that big peak, right? So that's step 3, is you've got to find a way to replace the need for porn in your life. So you don't have to just battle through it and just through brute force and strength push yourself to doing this nofap thing and just counting the days until your next slip up, really, but replacing the habit. That's what real recovery, guys. That's the difference between recovery and abstinence. Real recovery is long-term. Real recovery is not just counting the days until your next slip up and doing the streaks. Real recovery is figuring out what you need to fill your life with more excitement, with your vision, with your dream, and stop living a boring life. And actually, when you're feeling in the trenches and really urged to act out and watch porn, in those very moments, you stand up, you walk away, you do something else that is more exciting than going back to porn. And when you do that enough, you train your brain to off of the porn. You retrain your brain to not associate porn or sexual content on Instagram or wherever with acting out and sexual thoughts. In fact, you're able to ignore that stuff because you've retrained your brain to be more addicted to things that are healthy for you, that actually replace the need for porn in your life. Guys, if this is blowing your mind so far or has been helpful at all, I want you guys to smash the like button. That's what that little penis looking thing is. That's not a penis, that's a thumb. I can't draw a proper thumb. It always looks like a penis. But like the video if you like it, because it does help the video spread around. Apparently, that's what I've been told, so we're testing it out. So now we get to the secret sauce, step 4. This is where the rubber hits the road. This is the daily discipline of what it takes to beat a porn habit. We often think like, oh, if I just get something, then I'll just be free for the rest of my life. That's not the case. Initially, yes, when you get the impact, you will have the clear motivation and drive to do all of these things. But when it really comes down to the daily practice, it's about addressing why you use porn and the reason in those very moments that you feel a strong urge. If you've noticed that some days you feel more triggered to watch porn and masturbate, and some days you just feel totally fine with it and you feel on top of your game, right? it's really important that on those days or those moments where you're really feeling triggered to have some self-reflection, some introspection, and actually write it down, or better yet, talk to somebody and let them know, today I feel really stressed out because this was my case, because we're talking about me still, right? In my situation, the biggest root cause of the most amount of stress in my life that caused me always to go back to porn every single time was my relationship with my wife, okay? We had a very challenging first few years of our marriage. There was a lot of tension. There was a lot of fighting and arguing like all couples go through. But for me in particular, it was really hard for me to deal with that, because somehow I thought that my marriage would just be perfect and I would be perfect and everything would be smooth and rainbows and sunshine. And as soon as we started arguing and fighting, I made that mean something about me, and I became really, really insecure about our relationship, because I wanted to be perfect and I wanted to portray our relationship in the best way possible to the people around us, to my parents. And when we were fighting, I felt a lot of stress and anxiety about that. And I would always go back to porn every single time. So when I realized that that was the root cause, that was the biggest stressor in my life, the singular stressor in my life, and if I learned how to address that, then my chances of beating porn drastically increased, and I wasn't triggered at all anymore, because I didn't need to escape that emotion anymore. So the process I went through, and I had to go through, is realizing that, okay, every time I'm fighting with my wife, I get really stressed out and I want to go back to porn. Why? And asking myself that, why is it that today I feel this way? Of course, I don't want to fight with my wife. Of course, that's not healthy, depending on how you argue. But for some reason, for me, it was really a big stressor. So I had to peel it back and ask, why is this relationship so important that it has to be perfect all the time? Why is that the case? And I peeled back the layer over and over again until I realized that I have a lot of insecurities about me and the way that I portray myself to the world and my ego. And there was a strong correlation between my ego and my porn use. And when I realized that, I was able to address the issue, which was really my ego, which is really my response to these arguments, right? Because my porn use has really nothing to do with my wife. It's everything to do with the reason that I use it. It's not to do with anything to do with her, right? And when I realized that, I was like, aha, I've got to focus on this. And when I address this root cause, then my porn habit will dramatically get better, right? And it did. And this is what is happening in the very many men that I work with, is trying to get to the root cause. And usually there is a singular root cause that is causing the most amount of stress and anxiety. And when you focus on that stressor, whether it's school, finance, work, relationships, just boredom, lack of purpose in your life, spirituality, whatever it is, guys, when you focus on that, your chances really do skyrocket from there. So that's how I beat porn for good. Now, if you want to eliminate porn and masturbation from your life in a short period of time, you can check out my full step-by-step process today at benuyama.com. And also, if you want to join our group accountability, it's definitely the fastest way to beat porn and get accountable. Check that out at benuyama.com too. It's really good to have you guys. I love you all. Take care.